4 programs, or maybe you can say minimum 22 programs. Thereafter, we also have the budget seminar, and we have the annual conference also. So last year only, we have given more than 19,000 CP hours to our members. So this is a great achievement for any study circle, and we are proudly associated with huge exchange, and we are giving our services for the upliftment of the CA members. So our next program is there on 14th of June. On 14th of June, we have the program on income tax, this one, on charitable trust, income tax on charitable trust. And our speaker is Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya. And the next speaker is Ms. Sonali Bhattacharya, who is image maker. So nowadays, everyone has to be cautious about the image, and they have to make the branding also. And whatever branding is allowed by the ICI norm, and whatever we can access to the social media, there are thin lines, so we cannot go beyond those lines. So within those line also, we should always be there with the in the public eye, and it should be in such a way that we should follow the ICI guideline, as well as we should have the marketing also. So Ms. Sonali Bhattacharya will be there on 14th of June, along with Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya. He is a renowned speaker on the income tax. So both of them will be giving their deliberation on 14th of June. So I request each and every participant here who have not decided to join, you should join on 14th of June in physical mode at ACAE Hall. Another program we are having of annual conference. This annual conference is at Taj Bengal. This is on 2nd of August, and we'll be having lots of speakers, including the speaker on of the relevant area, like Mr. Girish Ahuja will be there, who will be speaking on the income tax matter. We'll be having CMD of the Times Group, who will be there in the inaugural section. And we are also having the CFO of ITC Limited. So we are already having the big shot name, and we are also continuing with a few speakers who have not confirmed till now. And due to that reason, I'm not naming them, but we are also looking after that. Some few 2 or 3 more speakers will be there, and we'll also be having one panel discussion in the last session, in the last part of the second session, wherein industry as well as the CA, everyone will be there, and they will be speaking on AI, whether AI will be in the benefit of the profession or it will be against the profession. So there will be 2 groups. One group will be saying why AI is beneficial for the CA member, and another group will be saying why this AI is not beneficial for the members, for the CA members. So let's see what extra we can gather from this deliberation, and this deliberation will also be giving insight into the AI and insight into our practice, whether we can follow up with the changing norms, whether we can take control of our own office in this changing environment. So that is the basic theme of this annual conference, and mostly our session will be on artificial intelligence. So that will be there in our annual conference. So I request each and every participant, whoever is available on 2nd of August, you should always you should be there at the Taj Bengal on the seminar of huge exchange, and it's a non-CP program, but it will not be giving us any CP award, but it will be giving more and more extra benefit to the CA members. So and the cost of the program is 2,500 per delegate. So I request each and every participant to register yourself as soon as possible.
And I
So
have
that
shared the form also in the chat box, Binayji.
yeah, great, great, great. So that is also great. So Ms. Pallavi has also done a great thing for providing informations. So with these remark, I come down to today's session that is on that is on use of AI in GFT. So since our this president of Use Exchange is Mr. Rishi Khator, and you all are aware of that he's most technical person, one of the most technical person who keep our CA profession upgraded each and every time. So he is also lead person on the startup as well as on the AI. So we are more focusing on the use of AI, not only in our annual conference but in our regular seminars also. And for this consideration only, today's topic has been chosen, and we are fortunate that Mr. Shubham Khaitan is here, who is providing us the detail for use of AI in the GST department or in our regular GST practice. So with this remark, I welcome Mr. Shubham Khaitan. So I welcome Mr. Shubham Khaitan. Please, yeah, Ms. Pallavi.
Thank you so much, Binayji. Now I would request Nehaji to give a brief introduction about our guest speaker, Shubham Khitanji. Over to you, Neha.
Good evening. Hi, thank you, Pallavi. Good evening, friends. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce esteemed speaker today, Mr. Shubham Khaitan. Mr. Khaitan is a multifaceted professional with a BCom honors from St. Xavier's College and holds prestigious qualification including FCA, CS, CFA USA, DISA, and LLB. He achieved remarkable academic milestones early in his career, becoming a chartered accountant at the age of 21 and a company secretary at the age of 20. He is currently a partner at S. Khaitan and Associates, a respected CA firm in Kolkata. Mr. Khaitan serves on various key committees, including the GST and Indirect Tax Committee of the ICAI, and is actively involved with the Confederation of Indian Industry (CII) and ASOCIM. Mr. Khaitan has authored and contributed to several acclaimed publications on GST and has conducted over 500 seminars and training sessions across corporates. With this, I pass on this to Subham, Mr. Khaitan to take over the session, as all this audience is waiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Binay ji, Rishi sir, Pallavi ji, Neha ji, everyone, and everyone who has been instrumental in me having having this session in front of all of you, and particularly to the Views Exchange Study Circle and the association for having me here. I think Neha ji has been very bothered by me in terms of number of discussions we've had over a period of time as to how we take this session. I'll try to do justice as much as possible to this particular topic. She has been a person who has been uh, extremely careful about making sure that we provide the best content to the viewers, which we'll try to do. And so we have structured a topic in a way that we not only cover litigation but also compliance, uh, from the perspective of technology, as to which are the things that we are using personally in our firm, which are the things which we are personally aspiring in terms of as to how we personally want to approach litigation from the perspective of technology. So we'll try to cover everything from a very technological point of view, at the same time cover very briefly on the provisions with regard to GST, which would contribute towards this particular topic. So I'll just share my screen here. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible, Subham.
Okay, wonderful. So there are quite a few things that I guess we can cover today in our session. First thing is the tally automation. A few things that we have tried to automate in our office through tally, which perhaps can be beneficial for users. And also tally itself has certain features through which we can have a lot of things automated from the perspective of GST. Preparations of supportings. So how do we prepare the workings data in the relevant format? How do we carry out reconciliations on a regular basis? So what are the ways in which we can maintain our data to make sure that whenever we find any return related particulars we need to find out from any whatever we've submitted online. How do we have adequate supporting documents for that? Thereafter, if we want to carry out reconciliation through, let's say, Chat GPT, how can we do it? So as per our own threshold, as per our own parameters, without depending on any software, through Excel itself, how do we create a macro and carry out that reconciliation? There are multiple notices which are issued on the GST portal, which we lose track of. So there are multiple notices which we tend to miss out on because we miss out to check the GST portal, which is not possible for every person to check the portal for every client on a day-to-day basis. So how do we make sure that we are capturing those kind of cases where we are missing out on notices and the notices have only been issued on the portal? Uh, Now there are certain common parameters because of which the scrutiny notices are issued under GST, which are for ASMT 10, DRC 01A, DRC 01, where we find differences between 2A, 3B, 1, 3B. All of those differences, how do we identify and make sure that we are able to capture that before the department issues the notice so that we can take adequate actions and mitigate those mistakes that we have made in our returns. Next is the interpretation of legal agreements. Perhaps people who are in the business of forming opinions on behalf of clients under GST, they would be able to relate to it much better. And not just GST, but for that matter, any law, if they are having legal agreements that they need to interpret, there are relevant clauses which are contributing towards the taxability of any uh, particular item under GST. So how do we interpret those legal agreements? How do we summarize those legal agreements? How do we ask those relevant questions to Chat GPT and we can get answers to that? And which are the pitfalls that we should avoid in those cases? Because Chat GPT also tends to give some answers which are not precise and correct. Now, there are certain complex questions under GST that we can perhaps ask any AI, but those complex questions may not be something that we would always get the right answer for. So how do we make sure that we are getting the right answers for it and they are not incorrect answers? So we'll talk about that also. How do we create a GPT? Those are all questions that we'll discuss. And finally, the preparation of draft replies. If you want to prepare replies through Chat GPT, how do we do that? So first thing first is the tally automation. So there are certain default reports which are coming in Tally regularly. So if we're talking about those reports, how do we configure those items and names in Tally? So we'll talk about that and ensure that there are no exceptions in the GST report. So Tally itself has a report which captures all the data in the right format, which is to be uploaded in the returns. So to make sure that the no data is missed out in those reports, we'll talk about that. How do we do that? And export all the data in Excel for filling up in the returns. That all of that we'll be talking about in the beginning, and thereafter I'll show you some of the customized reports that we've created in Tally to make sure that we are getting the adequate reports that we want in our format. So for that, what we need to do is make sure that we have our own data structure ready with us. So what is the format in which we want the data? So if the Tally report is not sufficient enough to provide the data in that right format, then we have to approach a Tally customization company for getting the desired report. And thereafter, you have to have a team which can test those reports and point out the relevant bugs which are there in those reports and get corrected. And after multiple reruns, we can apply that report. So first thing first is what are the configurations, item names, and ledgers in Tally. So we'll just open that Excel sheet which contains everything. So when you're opening a company in Tally, it is expected that first of all, we should enable the GST in that. Now, whenever we are creating any kind of expenses and those expenses are actually taxable under GST, we want to take the ITC of that. So first thing first is we should be marking those ledgers as taxable and specify the GST rate for those items. For example, for advertisement expenses, if I want to take ITC and make sure that it is automatically captured in the tally GST reports. First thing first that I should do is for the GST expenses, I should be marking the GST rate and the taxability of those items. And once I mark that, I would be able to, I would be rest assured that those are, if the relevant fields are filled up properly, it should be following in the tally GST reports. So what are the relevant fields that we should be looking at in under every expense? First is whether it is goods or services. The HSN code of those items, once we are specifying the GST rate, and if you want the input HSN code to also properly come in there, we should specify the relevant HSN code. Thereafter, whether the item is taxable or exempt under GST, it is possible that something is exempt, though GST invoice has been issued for that. And the rate of GST. What is the rate at which the GST is applicable for that particular ledger? And we have to find out on which basis will GST be calculated. So it would be on value. So it is either based on the base value which I am having, or it is based on some other metrics. So we'll have to mention the metrics on the basis of which the GST has been calculated. Once we have this, the tally would be able to automatically calculate whether the GST that we are, even while making the entry, the tally would be able to calculate that what is the GST that should be applicable in that particular case, and whether the GST has been correctly levied. And if there are any differences, tally would automatically point it out to us when we see the reports. Further, when it comes to expenses, we should be also looking at the ledgers. So when we see the creditor ledger, so whenever we are making advertisement expenses to any creditor, for instance, we should specify the name of the ledger and the GSTIN. So we have to specify the GSTIN because based on the GSTIN, the tally would be able to recognize whether it should be an IGST transaction or CGST SGST transaction. Also, if we want to perform matching of 2B, 3B through tally, ultimately GST and invoice number are the two base fields on the basis of which the reconciliation between 2B and 3B would be carried out. So for such cases, it is recommended that the GSTIN should be properly filled up so that 2B, 3B reconciliation as per tally can also be carried out adequately. Now, just to see how the report usually looks in tally for a standard client. So we go to display reports, we go to statutory reports, and thereafter we go to GST reports. And thereafter we can see 1 or 3B. So in GSTR 1, let's say if I'm going into GSTR 1, I can see that all the transactions here have been adequately captured. If there are any transactions which are remaining for which corrections are required, so that would be showing over here. I'll just show you one tally where, let's say there's an exception which is coming in here. And how do we rectify those exceptions? What is the meaning of this report? This report actually captures our return which is required to be filled up on the portal. All the B2B invoices, all the exports, the nil rated supplies. But if any invoice is not getting flown under any of these particular or under any of these particular heads, in that case, first of all, we need to make sure that the error which is appearing in that particular line item is corrected. So we'll just take an example for this. So we are opening this report once again in a different tally. Let's say this particular item, we have, instead of the correct rate, what we have done here is we have charged 300 rupees GST. So let us say when we have passed this entry, we find that there is an error which is now coming in here. This error is having Tally would be showing the kind of error and why this error is occurring over here. They would be pointing it out here. So here it has been mentioned applicable tax ledger is not selected. So we know there is some problem with the relevant tax ledger. That means it should be CGST, SGST instead of IGST or vice versa. So in such cases, what do? We have to identify whether we have correctly selected this ledger or whether the place of supply is correct. Either we have wrongly selected the place of supply or the ledger. So here we found that the place of supply was incorrect. So what do? We correct that we identify the right place of supply. Let's say this should have been West Bengal. We correct the place of supply is West Bengal. So they would find out. So we'll identify that this is now corrected. So thereafter, once we see that this has been corrected, the relevant return gets correctly generated. So now I see that the values are now properly flowing in, the uncertain transactions are zero. So this is the first thing that we are looking at. Now, the next aspect that we can perhaps look at here are some of the reports that we have created internally in our office. For example, this is the detailed sales report. Obviously, this is something which has been created by the Tally customization company, and this is basically only for the usage by that particular uh, Tally customization company. So it has to be bought at the relevant place from that company. So this is a report that we have got created because we wanted the Excel file to be in this particular format where we have everything at one go. Even the item descriptions, item name, where is it being reported, the taxable value, everything here had to be in this particular format that we wanted. So we could get the report created based on our understanding, and every month, all we need to do is export this report in our Excel format, and we can just simply paste it there rather than us having to regularly um, uh, make this data based on the standard reports which Tally is providing. So standard reports which Tally is providing does not contain a lot of fields, which includes the ledger code, the nature of expense, or where do we feed those in our returns. So those are not there. Usually we want that. So we need to identify which ledger is it impacting. So all of that I wanted that specifically, which was not normally available in the reports. So through this, we have done this. So this is the detailed sales report. This is the detailed purchase report. So even for the purchases, for refunds, for instance, we need to identify the relevant item which is being purchased. So item-wise report is normally not available in Tally. So I usually provide it over here. And it also provides me the expense-wise ledgers. So if I need to identify what is a block credit over here based on the expense ledger, rather than opening every expense ledger, I can simply do that by opening this particular report and identify if there is any block credit or any transaction on which RCM should be applicable based on the ledger head. So one report, it provides me everything at one go. So this is something that we can take care of. So Tally customization is something that would be the first thing that would be something which would be extremely helpful to us while filing our returns. Next thing would be the returns format. So I would suggest that we should not normally be only maintaining the data in Tally, because if there are any backdated changes which are carried out by any person and suddenly we are not able to match the reports which is coming in Tally with the actual 3D file, it becomes a huge challenge for us to identify the differences which are coming in. So directly filing the return from Tally, even if we do that, I would recommend still that we should have an external source where we can maintain our data, and those data can be in the adequate format containing the relevant particulars, so that tomorrow, whenever we have any observations, we can simply look at that particular Excel file. So we can just have a look at the Excel file where we are maintaining the data as per our format. For instance, this is the sort of summary that we would have every month as per GSTR1, and we would always match the summary as per GSTR1 actually filed versus the reports that we are preparing based on our understanding. For instance, for B2B, uh, if I want to have a look at it, every details would be available here, and it would be linked to my top sheet as to what are the invoices which have been reported here. B2C also would be based on these reports. So all of these would have invoice-wise details based on the month in which it has been reported, the party name, ledger head. So this is something that we try to capture because this helps us in 99C while trying to reconcile with our financials at a later date. The GSTN number, the voucher number, voucher date, invoice number, the GST which is applicable. We also try to perform our e-invoicing matching through this particular sheet based on the report which is coming as per tally versus what is appearing in the e-invoicing report as per the GST portal. So this, all of these particulars which are mentioned, we'll always match this with the e-invoicing data to make sure that nothing is, there is no difference between these two data. So when it comes to export, we would always report the shipping bill, and we'll also maintain the data for the shipping bill and match the data as per shipping bill as versus the returns. So all of this are relevant fields which are there for every line item which is reported on the portal. So that tomorrow, if I need to identify which of these line items had been actually reported, I can straight away have a look at it based on my uh, based on the items which have been reported here. So advances received, advances adjusted, everything comes in here, even the HSN wise details, the document summary, all of this which is appearing in GSTR1. I'm not getting into it, but all of this is already appearing. So we can have a look at it later on. So I'm just giving you a summary of what is the approach that we are following. I'm not getting into every columns that we are reporting here. So this is GSTR 3B. So exactly a replica of what is being reported on the portal comes in here, and we try to match it with our relevant data. So first thing first is we download the GSTR 2B, uh, which comes in here that we are reporting over here. Then we are performing the matching as per GSTR 2B versus what is appearing in my books of accounts. So as per my books of accounts, I would be preparing the list of all the invoices which are as per my tally. Thereafter, once I perform the reconciliation, I would be showing what are the invoices which are appearing in my books but were not reported in 2B, and vice versa in terms of 2B and but not reported in books. So all of that we would be showing over here. And thereafter, whatever is finally reported in GSTR 3B, that would be reported in forward charge as per 3B. So whatever is reconciled and it is to be taken in this month, that we are showing over here. And thereafter, reverse charge, import of services, both of these based on our ledger, we would be showing based on our ledger, we find out that any import of services or reverse charge has to be reported. We'll be reporting in the relevant format by providing the invoice-wise details for that. And once we have done the entire reconciliation, we would be providing for every field, whatever reporting has been made, we would be providing the exact line-wise details for it. So any ineligible ITC would be coming in here. So what are the items which have been reported as ineligible? If any reversals were there under Rule 42, 43, that comes in over here, that we try to explain always as to how have we arrived at the proportionate exempt reversal as per Rule 42. And any ITC which is to be reported under reclaimed ITC versus ITC as per 2B. So all of that which is coming in here under 4D1, that means any ITC which we had reversed earlier but is being reclaimed now. So which are the line items which had been reversed earlier? All of these are basically linked with the relevant Excel sheet. So without providing the line-wise details, my 3B does not get made. So if I make any mistake in terms of reporting the line items directly without linking it with my top sheet, it is expected that there may be a chance of an error because there's a human error tendency in terms of reporting any figure which is not correct. So we try to make sure that everything is linked with the relevant sheet, and every line item which is to be reported in my GSTR 1 and 3B, every line item is properly linked with the relevant sheet so that there is no mistake which appears because of that. So these are something that we have to take care of appropriately while we are reporting our GST returns. Thereafter, there are certain reconciliations that we are performing on a regular basis. So I'll just show you the reconciliation formats that we are following in our office. So a standard way of reconciliation would be matching between our GSTR 1, 3B and our books of accounts. So we are carrying it out on a three-way basis between all the three sources of data. We would carry out the reconciliation and identify if there are any mistakes which had been made. So 1 and 3B would automatically be linked. We would not be manually filling it up. So 1 data would come in here, 3B data would automatically come in here. So these are standard reports which are downloaded from third-party softwares, which you can directly link with the reconciliation so that it's very clearly available in front of you if there are any reconciliation mistakes which have been made between 1 and 3B. And the books of accounts data also, you can show it here. If you want, you can simply copy paste your entire outward register here, which is as per your books of accounts. Thereafter, any differences between books of accounts and returns that would be coming in here. So I have to make sure that whatever differences are here, that should be adequately justified in my Excel sheet. I put in as my observations. I put it as my reasons as to why the differences were occurring. And if there are any differences of previous years which have been corrected this time, so at the end of this particular reconciliation, we would find that there are certain discrepancies which are because of any line items of last year which has been not reported or any line items of this year which is to be carried forward in next year. So what we do is we try to report those line items by directly providing those invoices over here. Once we provide those invoices, that automatically gets linked with my books of accounts over here. And if any current year and next year line items are there, that comes in here. So I need to make sure that by the end of my reconciliation, which is after adjusting previous year line items and this year's line items, my total of each of these three sources are in line with each other. Thereafter, we would have a look at our reconciliation as per for ITC. For ITC also, there is a reconciliation that we would do between books of accounts and returns. So obviously between books of accounts and returns, there may be a difference given that there's a reconciliation which is required to be carried out between books and returns. So whatever differences are existing between books and returns that we would have to identify. So all of these reasons which are there, which are between books of accounts and returns, we would have to identify that so that every month when we are performing the reconciliation between books and returns, those line items are available with us. So those line items, we would be reporting it adequately over here. And ITC, which is as per books, would be automatically linked over here. So I can provide my entire ITC register, which is as per my books. And as per my 3B, whatever data is there, that comes in automatically from a third-party software. And you would reconcile that and provide the differences between each of these sources. And the reasons for these differences can be because of any previous year line item reported in this year, or any current year line item reported next year, or even current year in current year. So that means any any mistake in April has been corrected in the month of May in the same year. So we know that the reason which was caused in April was because of those invoices that we would be reporting here also. So all of these line items, we would have a adequate reason and the reporting for it. Next is the reverse charge reconciliation that we would look at. So reverse charge reconciliation would be between all the relevant sources of data. So there are three sources of data which usually cause a difference. One is the liability that has been paid as per 3B, which automatically comes in 3B like the other two sources. Automatically from 3B, the liability would be appearing here. Liability as per tally is basically the under duties and taxes, basically how much is the CGST or SGST that I have reported under RCM. So whatever has been reported, that comes in here. And finally, if I perform my actual reconciliation, if I want to identify based on the ledgers as to what should be the liability, I try to provide that over here. Again, all of these are linked with the relevant sheets, which are required to be reported. So all of these can be linked and automatically the differences would be pointed out. The idea and the focus should be not preparation of this sheet, rather to point out the differences or the reconciliation errors which are causing these differences. So this is the reverse charge reconciliation that we would be looking at in the next instance. After that, what we can look at are, so all of these reconciliations we can identify by, there may be multiple reasons for these reconciliations, which I'm not getting at. Now, the next thing that we should be looking at is are the common reasons for scrutiny. So if there is a difference between 1 and 3B, or difference between sales as per books versus sales as per e-wables, or RCM tax paid versus the RCM ITC availed on that, RCM tax paid versus RCM liability as per 2A, ISD credit versus GST at 2A ITC. So ISD, whatever ITC we have availed versus whatever is coming in 2A. Forward charge ITC as per 3B versus forward charge ITC as per 2A. So all of these may be different reasons for differences. Import of goods with 2A versus 3B, credit note which is appearing in 2A, for which ITC reversal had not been made. So if any reversal had to be carried out, which has not been carried out, so all of that we can always look at it and preempt those notices rather than reacting to those notices. So idea is we can prepare some reconciliations on our own, and we can identify those errors without having to be pointed out by the department. So based on a few reports, we can identify those errors, so that if we have those errors, we can correct it before the notices usually come in. So or whether the place of supply is of some other state. So all of these are different situations which we can cover. One is where the supplier's registration has got cancelled retrospectively, or where the 3B was not filed by the supplier. So all of this we are going to see in most of these things we'll see in the standard report that is available with us. Okay. 1 second. These are standard reports that we can look at. For instance, for GSTR1, if I have a very small summary and the invoices line items available with me. So what I can do is, and I have all the sources of data which are possible, which the department usually takes for outward supply. Example, GSTR1, 3B, GSTR9, GSTR9C, e-waybill, even e-invoices list can be compiled here. So I would look at, so this is a standard attachment which is usually given with any ASMT 10 notice which is issued by the department, where they would point out various sources of data and they would compile that data over here. And thereafter, they would try to issue those notices. First thing first is liability as per GSTR1. So from GSTR1, I can simply take the relevant figure which has been reported in my outward supply. So example, my GSTR1, I simply take this figure, which is my yearly summary, which I can simply collate by adding my B2B, B2C, all of these items. I have collated it here. So my GSTR1 aggregate supply comes in here. Now, next is if any liability is to be paid by the recipient, that means it is under reverse charge that we are reducing. So the net liability comes in over here. And thereafter, we try to identify the difference with GSTR 9. So GSTR 9, ideally in my table 5N, my outward liability would be coming in. So based on my GSTR 1 versus GSTR 9, there would be a discrepancy that might arise. Further, department would also look at the e-waybill data, which is available with me invoice-wise. Similarly, e-invoice data would also be coming in invoice-wise. So they would normally take the highest values and they would compare it with the tax actually paid with under 3B. So 3B data directly comes from 3B as to what is the exact tax which has been paid here. And whatever difference is there, they would raise a liability for that. So it is better that once we have all of these data, which is very simple to extract it from a report, and this is not something where we have to do any sort of, we don't have to put in any sort of efforts. Once we have all of these data available with us, all we have to do is copy paste those data, for all our clients and identify what is the liability that might come in if the notices are issued. And these liabilities are something that we can investigate and, if possible, correct wherever possible. And I would suggest that while you are doing your 99C, you can perform this exercise to make sure that whatever errors are coming in by that time, it gets corrected so that there is no mistake which gets carried forward to the next year. Similarly, with regard to RCM liability, I would suggest that what we can do is we can simply take the liability as per our 3B. The import of services, all of these are directly appearing in 3B. If I look at my 3B, I can simply look at my RCM liability, which is coming in here every month. And based on my RCM liability, which comes in here, I have to identify the ITC which has been availed also on this. So RCM ITC also comes in here, RCM liability also comes in here. Based on my liability versus my ITC versus what is appearing as RCM liability as per 2A. So even if my supplier has uploaded any outward supply showing any outward supply that the tax is to be paid under RCM, even that would be coming in over here based on my 2A. They would simply extract the data on which the RCM has been applicable, where the RCM was applicable were a few line items. On these line items, what was the RCM liability applicable vis-a-vis what is the liability that we have actually paid. Thereafter, I would be looking at my liability as per GSTR 9. So RCM liability as per GSTR 9 also is reported over here in table 4G. And it is also reported in my table 6C and D over here. So automatically, based on all of this, my data gets compiled here, and based on the highest liability versus the liability which is actually being paid through 3B, I can simply compare the difference and the liability gets paid. So this can be a value-add service which we can provide to all our clients to make sure that at least wherever we are filing the returns, such sort of errors don't appear in our returns. ITC availed from different sources. So various sources of data contribute towards the ITC, which is usually availed by us, which can be through 3B. So if I'm wanting to reconcile between import of goods as per 2A and 3B, we can simply take the data as per 3B of import of goods versus within 2A, there are import of goods which appear here. So I can simply take the data as per 2A and identify import of goods over here. Right? So next is ITC availed on import of services plus RCM. So whatever is my aggregate ITC availed on RCM, I would compare that with the ITC available as per my GSTR 3B versus GSTR 9. So what I'll do is from 3B, I take this data. Also, I would take the data if possible from GSTR 9. And thereafter, I would compare that data over here to find out if there are any differences. Similarly, 2A, 3B, we can simply take the data as per 2A. It gets copy pasted here, or 2B for that matter, for the time being. And 3B data automatically comes in here. Thereafter, we can get the differences over here for each of these cases. Also, for certain cases where we are talking about reversal of ITC, table 4A to table 4G, where we are looking at ITC to be reversed, what we can do is, based on certain cases from 2A, we can simply extract the data where the registration of the supplier has been cancelled retrospectively. So we can simply identify that data from GSTR 2A by identifying what is the registration status of that supplier, what is the 3B filing status of that supplier. So wherever the registration had got cancelled, that automatically comes in over here. And we can simply use that for the purpose of checking whether the supplier's registration which has been cancelled, whether we've taken appropriate actions for recovery of taxes which have been paid to the supplier, or where the place of supply is not West Bengal. So where the place of supply is outside West Bengal, the department tends to not allow me ITC on that. So from my 2A, what I can do is I can simply check the cases where the place of supply is other than West Bengal. So that automatically comes in here. Even in case of proportionate reversal of ITC, if I have to identify which are the cases where the reverse ITC has been reversed proportionately, I have to identify the exempt supply, the taxable supply which has been carried out, and the common ITC. So if there are any exempt supply which we've reported, it is expected that we can expect a notice from the department where they would ask us to reverse certain ITC on exempt supply. So it is better not to report those exempt supplies. Rather, it is better to report it under as a reconciliation item in table 9, in GSTR 99C. Because if we report this as exempt supply in GSTR 1 and 3B, on which a reversal is not required to be carried out, we still might expect a notice from the department. So we should be very careful that we report only actual exempt supply over here, and not any exempt supply which will not entail any ITC reversal. So all of these are various parameters based on which department notices can be issued. So we can preempt those notices by compiling the relevant data from the various sources of GSTR 1, 3B, 2A, 99C, e-waybill, e-invoices, or whatever data the department can use for the purpose of issuance of notice to me. Next, what we usually struggle with normally is the tracking of relevant notices and orders. So at least for our regular or all our major clients, we should be tracking our notices as a value-added service that we can provide them. Because there are situations when the client would normally tell us that if the user ID and password has been given to you, so it is expected that every notice and order that has been issued is supposed to be our responsibility. This is obviously subject to the fact that whatever responsibilities that you assume for that particular client, it depends on that. But as a value added service for all the notices and orders which have been issued for that client, though it may not be possible for you to track those notices. So I'll just show you what we are doing in our office for making sure that we are tracking those notices. So this is one app that we have purchased for our purpose, that which contains the list of all the notices which come in. So what we have to do is basically make sure that we come to GST over here, and thereafter for making sure that we get all the notices available with us, we have to sync this particular notice. So this option is there with us where we can sync whatever GSTNs are added over here. What we can do is, for the relevant clients for which we want to sync our data, we can simply sync the data here. For all the data which gets synced, that means whatever notices are appearing on the GST portal, that would be automatically updated in this particular software. So what we can do is, based on the data which is appearing in this particular software, we can simply look at all the summary of notices which have been issued by that particular client. So whatever notices have been issued for the relevant client, that would be coming in the form of summary. I can simply go to any of these notices. I can sort those notices. I can go to any of these notices to identify the reasons for the differences, or I can filter also any particular client which I feel is which is having those notices. And if I need to download these notices, orders and applications, all I can do is I can just go over here. Wherever the notices are uploaded on the portal, most of these notices would be directly appearing as a PDF here. I simply select on that particular PDF, I get that particular notice. So rather than logging into every GST portal for every client and identifying the reasons for the differences, what we can do is we can simply have a standardized and a centralized software where we can get multiple notices at one place. So for instance, if I want to also prepare a calendar for the cases where the notice have been issued, I can simply look at the demands which have been issued till date. The notices which have been issued would be marked here as blue. So on the date when the notice was issued would come in here. The date on which that notice is due. Which notice is due is simply I can select it and identify which notice is something for which I have a due date which is due over here. So if there are any such notices that we can identify that we can take corrective actions for, we can do that. So all of these notices would be coming in at one place, and both the options are available for normal notices and for additional notices. If there are any amendments of a registration which you have applied for, all of that would be coming here at one place. So rather than you
Shubham,
log into, yeah,
sorry
hello.
to interrupt, but there are questions coming in chat box. Can you please take them so it becomes a little interactive also?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question is name of the software. What about the notices coming through offline mode? See, what we can do is this is particularly the Jamku portal. So from the Jamku portal, we can get the relevant notices which have come in. And also, I mean, with regard to offline notices, unfortunately, we don't have any option other than having a centralized database for it. So the only way where we can do this is through our relevant. I mean, I'll show you how we are tracking notices in our office for offline mode. But if you want to track online notices, this is the only way to do it. So usually what we are doing for our case is I'll show you how are we tracking our offline notices. So in all of these cases, we can see that there are multiple notices which is being tracked by us on a day-to-day basis. So for each notice which is issued, there would be a different serial number which would be attributable to it, the client for which it has been issued, the person who is responsible for doing it in our office, the matter for which it is relating to. So there are multiple matters which for which the notice is related to. So I would categorize those notices into the relevant matters so that tomorrow if I want to track which notices had been issued in the past for that particular issue, I can simply track it from my tracker here, my status report here. So the financial years, the section number, all of this I'll try to track. And thereafter, the notices, what is the status of those notices currently? Which are the notices that our office is working on? So I would find out that these are the notices which are currently pending with us, and these are what are the due dates for those notices. I can simply track the due dates of those notices and make sure that the replies are filed on time. So only way to do it is basically through offline mode where we are compiling this data for us so that we have the readily available data with us. And there are obviously various office management softwares that you can use to do that activity as well. So if there are any notice for which we filed a reply for which we are expecting the department to provide their response, so we categorize it over here. So what are the notices? At which stage is it pending? Is it at the SCN level or is it at the appeal level? So all of that we'll be providing it here, and also we'll try to track the billing of our company, whether the bill has been raised for that particular case, because there may be multiple cases which we are working on together. There may be cases where we might miss out on any invoice for any client, so we track that through this particular case. Uh, the hearing date and the hearing whenever it comes in, that also we are tracking it, and once the order is passed, that we show that the order has already been passed for it. And if we need to file a new case for it, then we prepare a new task for it here, and we show that the appeal is yet to be filed in this case. So we are tracking it through this particular software, all the notices, not just online notices, but all the online and offline notices. Everything is being tracked through this portal so that we have a clear idea about which are the cases where we need to take appropriate actions. Okay, let's move on now. Next, after tracking of notices, what we can do is we can interpret. How do we interpret legal agreements? So what before doing that, we'll also do one more thing, which is doing a reconciliation through ChatGPT. If we have to carry out reconciliation on our own through ChatGPT, then how do we carry out this reconciliation? So let us say this is the standard data of our GSTR 2B. This is the standard data of our purchase register. Now I want to make sure I get the invoice wise details of what is appearing in 2B but not in purchase register, and vice versa. I want to make sure that this reconciliation happens not through any software but through simple Excel form, but simply through Excel, and rather than actually matching these line items on a by filtering out each invoice number or based on GST, and that is a tedious exercise. So if we want to do this reconciliation, normally it would take at least some amount of time depending on which tools we use in Excel. So what we can do is we can simply write a VBA code for it. We can carry it out through macros. So what we can do here is we can simply provide a prompt to ChatGPT that this is the activity that is something that we want to carry out, and provide this Excel file. So let's say I provide this prompt to ChatGPT that I am a practicing chartered accountant and I want to reconcile my purchase register with 2B using a VBA macro. Please create a macro. And I provide the Excel workbook, I provide the sheet name, and I provide the logic based on which I want the reconciliation. Obviously, this logic can be changed by you, and this would change the logic for reconciliation also. So what we can do is we can, let's say we are wanting to reconcile by GST and plus invoice number. We want to ignore case sensitivity or spaces, or we want to provide that if the invoice numbers are similar, let us match those invoices. We provide the threshold for those cases. So in this case, what we can do is we can simply provide this prompt and provide the result which we want in whichever format that we need. So we provide this prompt, let's say, to ChatGPT. So here what they do is they provide me with the Visual Basic macro. They provide me with the macro that would be used for the purpose of this reconciliation. So we copy this particular macro. They would also provide me how to go about it. Once this macro is written completely, once they process the entire thing, they would also guide me as to how do I do it. So first thing first that we need to do is we open that particular Excel file that was there. So in this Excel file, what we need to do as per the ChatGPT, what we need to do is we have to open the VB editor. Before we do this, there's only one thing that we need to carry out, which is make sure that this is a macro enabled workbook. So we need to save it as a macro enabled workbook. So what we do is we click on Alt F11. Thereafter, we have to insert a new module, which has been mentioned here. So we insert a new module. Thereafter, whatever code was copied, we would paste that over here. Once we paste this code over here, what we have to do is simply close this Excel file, close the Visual Basic, and thereafter run through Alt F8, which is also explained here. Once we run this, we'll get the results for it. So there are some cases where you might find this sort of error happening, where the macros are not enabled properly. This we need to add as a location for the purpose of running our macro. So we open it again, and thereafter once again we look at Alt F11, we look at insert module, we copy paste this module here. Thereafter we close it, we go to Alt F8 and we run this. So once we run this, we would find that the reconciliation report comes in here. In the reconciliation report, we can simply find that whatever line items stand matched between books and returns, that would come in here. Whatever line items are only in books, only in purchase register, or there is a mismatch in tax amount, whatever threshold we provide, all of that would be coming in here as in the reconciliation report. So Once we have this report, what we need to do is we have to prepare a pivot table through which we can get the entire data in one go as to if I prepare this pivot table, this is the reconciliation report. I prepare this pivot. Now, on an invoice wise basis, I get based on GST and based on invoice, I prepare the pivot. And what is the value as per 2B? What is the value as per books? What is the difference? So even for the invoices which don't get matched as per Visual Basic, as per the macro, we have a clear delineation of it. So example, I find that in these two cases, there's a difference in GSTIN, but the invoice number and the value is the same. All we have to do is correct the GSTIN. So this comes in below each other. Or for instance, here everything is fine, but there is a difference of 500 rupees in value. So this comes in the same line. So we can take appropriate actions thereafter for the reconciliation. So this entire reconciliation of 200 line items would hardly take 5 minutes for you to do the entire reconciliation when it comes to 2B and 3B. So this is one aspect that we can have a interesting outlook about. Now, next thing that we can do that is we can understand how do we create a GPT here. For instance, I want to create a GPT which contains the list of all the which is only solely for the purpose of GST. For example, what you can do here is we can come here and we can come to my GPT. We can create a GPT. Here, what you have to do is you can provide the name of your GPT, the description as to what is it that you expect the GPT to do. What is your expectation? And thereafter, you can provide instructions to the GPT and what it should not be doing. For example, the GPT should not be taking data from anything other than what you're providing. You don't want the data to be coming in from online, from the web search. So you can deselect web search over here. So you can upload the relevant files through which you want the data to be extracted from the GPT. So I'll just show you one GPT that I had created a while back. So in my GPT that you would find, I have provided it a very clear instruction that the GPT is GST notices and replies. What I want it to do is I want it to understand the GST provisions, understand the notices and replies which I'm giving it to, and thereafter, based on the notices and replies, it can see the notices and replies and thereafter make the new replies based on my pattern of reply. So ChatGPT is like an assistant for you who is very smart, but at the same time, it does not know what to do. So this assistant learns very fast. It is intelligent, but at the same time, this assistant does not know what you need. So what we need to do is we have to give very clear instructions, just like you would give to your assistant. So what I do is I have provided very clear instructions what I want from it. I am a practitioner in GST. I have provided you the rules and notifications and circulars. I will feed you certain notices. I want you to understand the pattern of reply and follow that pattern. Do not apply any generic knowledge which you might already have, but you need to make the reply from what I am giving you and from my understanding. And if you have any confusion, please ask me. Don't do based on what you have, but based on general understanding and based on my opinions. You can draft those opinions based on my understanding. So what I have given it is basically the compilation of the entire Act rules notifications together. I've also provided the background materials of institute so that and I've told it not to go beyond it. So now whenever I need to make a reply based on this, let's say what I can do is I can simply come here. What I've done is I have provided the relevant prompt that I've got a notice from the GST department suspecting that I'm trading in this. So what I have done is I have provided the notice to this particular case. So GST department, before replying to the notice, it would ask me based on my pattern, okay, what is it that I have a position regarding. So they would ask me for certain specifics, my business activity and everything. So I say that I've uploaded the notice. It provides me the draft reply. Thereafter, I provide the specification that I need to explain the calculation which you've missed out on, and so on. I provided the relevant uh, instructions as to what do I need from it. So idea is uh, whatever mistakes are being done, whatever errors are required to be corrected, I would suggest that you should ask the chat GPT to do it. Because if you do it on your own in your Word file, the chat GPT would never learn. Similar to your assistant. If you don't empower your assistant, rather you try to do everything on your own, eventually the second time when you have to do a similar task, you have to do it on your own again. So it is better that even if it takes a certain amount of time when you ask your assistant to do the work for the first time, though it may take more amount of time in guiding rather than you doing it yourself, it is better to keep on guiding. That way you will empower that person. So this is the revised reply which it creates. Thereafter, I specify them as to what is it exactly that I need. I don't need a specific annexures. Each of the columns should be explained properly. So they keep on doing this activity. So once I provide the exact instructions and I get close to what I need, thereafter, what I do is I can simply download that particular notice. I can reply, I can edit that reply and I upload that reply. So this is my edited reply. So please understand and follow this pattern next time when I upload this sort of notice. So even for SCN reply drafting, what I did here was I uploaded the sample notice and sample reply, and I asked that it should follow a similar format when making the reply. So once I upload the reply and thereafter I provide a sample SCN, and I ask them that the SCN is on similar lines, please provide my reply based on that. So at least some part of the work which involves at least changing the name of the person, changing the tax amount, changing certain aspects based on the notices, it would be able to do on its own. So I provide that whatever issues are there, on what basis I want the replies, based on that, it would be providing me the reply. So I might have to give a number of prompts to ChatGPT. It would be able to do that based on my instructions. So obviously it involves a lot of training. It involves a lot of time, just like you would spend with your assistant. It might take a lot of time to train. But obviously, since this assistant is there with you, it would not be leaving you ever. So once you train that assistant, you are rest assured that the learnings which it gets would be there with you for your lifetime. You can always reap the benefits of that. So next aspect is example. Again, this was based on, again, from my notices and replies. What I do here is, if there are any questions which I want to ask, based on the Act rules notifications, it would find out the reply or it would find out the response to those questions which I'm asking. And thereafter, it would provide its best possible help to me. For example, I asked a question to it, what if I sell a capital asset after using it? What would be the GST applicability on it? Normally, this is a question which normally your client can ask you. So it would provide its reply based on the relevant understanding which it has got, and they would explain with examples if required. But I would, if the response which it gives, at times it tends to wander on its own and the response may not be accurate. So I might have to prompt it a couple of times that the response which you give should be only based on the data which I have given you, or the notices, the rather the circulars notifications which I have uploaded, and nothing beyond that. So in that case, it would be able to provide you the adequate reasons. So, and whenever it provides you with the response, it is always recommended that you should ask it as to where is it that you've got this response from, so that you can always go and refer to that, because it might happen that it provides an incorrect response. So I usually ask it as to where did you get the response from, and if there's any particular section which you've got the response from, and I would read that section to make sure that it is interpreting it correctly. Simply similar to your assistant. It might happen that your assistant is very smart. You have given a task to that assistant, but that assistant has not done it correctly. You still need to review those tasks, whether those are accurate or not. So this is a very similar activity, that where it is providing you a perspective based on the learning which you're giving him. But eventually you still have to make sure that those tasks are performed correctly. So Example, if I ask it, if I sell a car, what would be the implications? It would answer me based on the relevant circulars. So I would ask it, where have you got what is the applicable rate of GST? So, and I would ask, where is the source? How have you got these responses? So they will tell me the notifications. So it is suggested you can go to those notifications and find out whether those are being correctly stated or not. So all of these things, if there are any notifications, any circular which you remember might have been issued, but you don't remember which is the notification, you can always ask it. For example, I remember this notification had been issued for capital contribution in a partnership firm by a partner, whether GST is applicable on it. So I would usually ask it, how have you got this response? So what is the source of your response? I can ask it, what is the source of the last response on JV and member contribution. So it would provide me with the response, and I can always look at that circular. So it would tell me that this is the circular to which it had referred to. I can go back to that circular and see whether the interpretation has been adopted correctly or not. So based on this, I can always look at the relevant notices. Based on that, I can always ask questions, but it's always good to verify these notices. So this is now I'll give you an example of a legal agreement. I had uploaded a legal agreement, so it provided me a summary of those agreement as to what is this was a development agreement where between landowner and development, there was a development agreement. It provided me a summary of those notices. So thereafter, I want to ask specific questions about it. As to if this is an area sharing agreement between the developer and landowner, how will the area be divided among the parties? So based on the agreement, it would be a very long agreement of maybe 100 pages. They would extract the relevant data and give it to me. So based on the agreement, it would try to interpret. So I would thereafter ask what is the payment term. So based on the relevant agreement, it would point out to me. But again, at times it tends to wander. I would suggest not to only rely on the reply which it gives. So you should always ask the source of and the relevant clause where it was pointed out. So I would always point out uh, which page number in which clause has it been pointed out. So whenever I ask a question, I have informed ChatGPT to make sure it provides me with the relevant clause number and the page number also whenever I ask a question. So it updated its memory over here that in the future, whenever I ask a question, it would always provide me with the page number. So when I ask the question with regard to whether the breach of contract had occurred, so here they would always provide me with the page number, the clause under which this was pointed out. So I can refer back to this clause and make sure that the interpretation is coming as per my understanding. So please don't rely on it simply because it has been pointed out by ChatGPT, though it is very smart, but it is not smarter than you. Because eventually you would be required to interpret based on your understanding, right? So I would do a lot of things which would involve me to make sure that I can simply refer to ChatGPT for doing it. So I get a perspective normally from it, which normally I would not get if I think on my own. So I would get a perspective from it. But the accuracy, authenticity of what it has done is something that I would always look at. I'll give you an example here. I asked a question to ChatGPT. It's like talking to your assistant, as I said, what is section 200 of GST law? And interestingly, it provided me with an answer. Though there is no section 200, it provided me with an answer which was completely made up. And based on this answer, I presume that there is a section of 200, and the confidence with which it had given an answer, I was under the impression that it was something which is already existing. Thereafter, I had to scold it like you would scold your assistant, that please check if it actually exists. Don't give me any wrong information. Thereafter, it rectifies its mistake and tells me apologies for the confusion. I found that this is a section 200. This is not section 135.
Disconnected.
This is not section 200, but rather section 135. And there is no section 200. So, I mean, that's why you always have to look at the authenticity. So thereafter, once you ask a question to it again, it would rectify its mistakes. So it would tend to make a lot of mistakes. So it is expected that you would verify this. So you should ask the relevant question and check the relevant data before you always get the answer for it, right? So with this, I think Neha ji, have come to the end of my session.
Yes.
So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them up.
Yes. Viewers, do you have anyone has any questions? I think you have explained so well that no one has any questions on it.
Okay.
And, maybe
I think Gagan is also here. Gagan Kedia.
Gagan is here.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Nehaji. Hi, Shubham.
Hello,
Hi,
Gagan.
Gagan.
Hello, Gaganji.
So we'll love to hear your perspective on how you are using AI as well. I think maybe in brief, if if you can provide some of your insights.
No, Shubham, I think you have very rightly mentioned that before using any AI tool, it is the perspective first we need to make it correct. That what is an AI tool for us? Like you rightly mentioned, it is smart, but it is not smarter than us.
Right.
So an AI tool will be effective only if we are smart enough to use it effectively. Like you rightly mentioned, it is one of our assistant who can work 24 hours, but it is also prone to errors. We should be smart enough to identify the errors if it is making. And there is one particular thing, I think, Shubham, which is you have also mentioned about this prompt, the prompts that we are giving to any GPT for that matter. Uh, so, say for example, if just one quick story I'll tell. Once I asked people in my office that this is very like around 5 6 years ago. I asked that today you have to file. That was the initial period of 99C and all. So I told them that today I need each one. There were 3 team leaders. So I asked each one of you have to file 10 999Cs today, and you have to show it to me. So they filed all the nil returns and said, "Sir, we are done." So they did in 1 hour, and the balance 7 hours they were waiting. So my instruction was not clear. They did what I instructed. They filed 99Cs. Similarly, your GPT is also, you have to be very sure and you have to understand that, okay, this GPT can also teach me if I don't know anything. So I should be okay to ask the GPT that I don't know about this, act as this thing and teach me as well. If you don't know a particular thing, how to give it a prompt or how you can use it, you ask the GPT itself. Automate it. And one suggestion for everyone is that start using it. Start spending 15 minutes a day with it. That is the first step you should take. Spend dedicated 15 minutes on this. And balance on how to use it and how to automate your work. Shubham has very nicely explained.
Yes.
We'll go ahead with that.
Yes.
Thank you, Shubham.
Thank you so much, Gagan. I think this is something which is a wonderful supplement to what you have just mentioned. I mean, the prompt plays a very important role. The fact is, we have to start doing it to be able to realize the potential. And just one small thing which I would like to end with. Normally, maybe 20 years back, when a person who was a chartered accountant would have started with manual books of accounts, when the computer had come, he would have thought that tomorrow I might not have any job tomorrow because all the journal entries, all the ledgers would automatically be reconciled, and the trial balance sheet, everything gets prepared tomorrow. Now the computer, once it comes in tomorrow, I might not have any job because the computer is taking over my job of my reconciliation, because the balance sheet which is getting matched was a huge exercise for him. So if everything is now automated, then what is his job? So similar to that, I would say even AI, we at times feel that whatever we are doing is basically not going to result in a way that maybe we would not be requiring a few of our assistants, or maybe CAs would not have that sort of role which was there earlier. But it is just a similar way how computer got introduced. What we have to remember is we have to stay updated with the technology. If we are updated with it, we know how to use it. In that case, we stay ahead in the race, right? But if we are not knowing how to use it, then the problem was faced not by those CAs who actually knew how to do balance sheet, but those CAs who could not adapt to do or perform reconciliations or actually pass entries through Tally, or for that matter, any software through computer. So our idea is to make sure we adapt to the relevant technology in the right way. Once we do that, in that case, sky is the limit when it comes to our understanding of what we can do through it. So that's the only thing which I would like to end with.
Yeah, 100% agreed, Shubham. We extend our heartfelt thanks to you for generously sharing your valuable knowledge and deep insights with us today. Your detailed walkthrough of the reconciliation process and the meticulous preparation of your Excel sheets for filing various GST forms truly reflect the immense effort and experience you have invested in streamlining this complex task. And I'm sure that the viewers must be applying the techniques which you have shared, and they will definitely later on go and watch the video again for have a better understanding, and will definitely apply in their office work. Thank you so much. With this, I pass on to Pallavi. Pallavi, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you, Shubham ji, for the wonderful insights. And I think, as you and Gaganji rightly said, we need to train the AI to help us regarding and make it convenient for us, our job. But that doesn't mean, obviously, that it will replace us anyway. Uh, and I think that we need to understand, and this is what our basically theme is about, gaining the age. We need to update ourselves on a regular basis, which we talk about every month at our seminar. And further, I would just once again thank you, Shubhamji and Gaganji, and Shubhamji for the wonderful deliberation, and Neha for coordinating the seminar for us. Thank you
Always.
on behalf of Youth Exchange. I thank everyone, every participants. Thank you so much.
Thank
With
you.
this,
Thank you so
Thank you,
we are
much, Youth
Shubham.
closing.
Thank
Exchange
you,
and
Gagan. Thank you,
Pallavi.
viewers.
Thank you so much.